This should infuriate you. This should
Guys, a complete snake.
This should infuriate you. This should make you. This should make you mad.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. This is just, this whole frickin' thing is, you get pork for Christmas. This bill, this thing that they're putting through, this the CR, congressional revision, I think, is that right? I think that's what it's called. Dex, is it a congressional revision? Is that what CR stand for? What does that stand for? This thing that they're trying to push through?
Well, I think it's either a continuing resolution. It's also a congressional resolution is the other term people use for CR. But the other people are calling it an omnibus bill. Sorry, saying that wrong.
Yeah. So this thing that they are, well, everybody's looking at the sky. Well, everybody's going, oh my gosh, there's aliens or Iran. They're pushing this through, and we're going to show you some of the things that they are quietly trying to push through. Now, most of the times, a lot of these things will be dropped out, but if they put 10 horrible things in it, and you have people like Mike Johnson saying, well, we've got to compromise. We might have to let some of these things go to get the things that we want. When you have stuff like that happen, then all of a sudden, out of 10 of these horrible, horrible things that nobody wants, 5 of the horrible things is the lesser of 2 evils, and they go, oh, let's put that in there. Just wait until you see what's in this thing. So, again, welcome to Marfoogle News. There are 2 provisions buried in the CR that Congress is trying to slip by: a pay increase for members of Congress from $174,000 to $243,000 per year. That is a 40% raise. Now, many people are not making $174,000, but they definitely don't see the raise of 40%. Now, inflation is bad, but don't feel bad for these guys. They are all on the inside track. They all get so many benefits from doing their job, and they get all sorts of insider trading tracks. Again, this is members of Congress. So as far as the raise, yeah, that's a smart thing to put in there, right? Because all of the Congress members are going to try to give themselves a raise. They're going to say, hey, yeah, I'll pass that. I get a freaking huge raise out of it. Now, if they were just making $240,000 a year, then you wouldn't see multi-millionaires. So I honestly don't even think they need this raise because they have trading for that. They have, meetings where they can go in and invest 10 minutes before they release something to the public. But again, that's just my opinion. Dex, as far as putting an Obamacare opt-out, so these are 2 things. They're not only getting a raise, but also, obviously, on the back end, they're like, yeah, please get us out of this thing. They're putting an opt-out for the healthcare system that everybody loves so much.
Well, if it's so good for the rest of us, why are they not forced to use it? Well, they are, but now they're getting to opt out of it if this bill goes through. So, just absolutely ridiculous. These are our representatives; they should represent us, which means they should be like us, live like us, not necessarily be these elite snobs that have special privileges.
And I'm sorry, I've pointed this out many times, but just last year, this woman went in front of Congress and was absolutely livid. She was mad that she couldn't wear her $12,000 dress to Congress and that the dress code was far too strict, and she was so mad. She goes, I have a dress of a $12,000 dress that I can't wear to work. How does that represent us? $12,000 to us is a brand new Toyota, or to us, it would be a new Toyota, right? It would be a used Toyota, and it would be transportation to and from work. That $12,000 would be a new roof on our house. $12,000 would be, a new addition to your house. Like, to these people, it's what they wear on Wednesday. How does that person represent us? Well, of course they don't. And they're getting paid $174,000 a year to, and again, how did that woman please tell me how that woman afforded a $12,000 dress. She used, what is that, 9% of her entire year to buy a dress? I highly doubt that. These people are making far, far more money than you know. See, the thing is when you're in a seat like this, you get paid on the side for all sorts of stuff. And it's completely illegal, but legal at the same time. It's like these things that it's like you're doing this blink and a wink and a nudge kind of thing. Of course, if they secretly get some money transferred to them and then help a bill get passed, nobody really sees that. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and keep in mind, they only work about half of the year, in the sense that they have to be there for legislation work. 146.7 was the number of days averaged back in 2024, I guess, this report I'm looking at. That's the number of days that were legislative days. So that's all they have to work. Half a year, and they're getting that fat salary.
Which most of us, again, and that's also somebody who's not going to complain about the price of groceries right now, because they've got some extra in the tank, especially if they're 60, 70, 80 years old, where they're just making this every single year and they're getting, groceries for themselves or something like that. But again, just crazy stuff. Now, before we go into more of the absolute absurdities that they put into this thing, and this is extremely important, it's extremely important to point out the people that are saying this is the same people I've been saying since day one. I mean, it's like snake oil salesman here saying this stuff that basically we need to compromise. I'll show you here in a second. Everybody is now starting to see it, and I'm like, we've all seen it from the beginning. Before we move on, though, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. With all the craziness, who knows what people across the planet are planning, let alone our own 3-letter agencies. But again, if you want to protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats against an electromagnetic pulse, this is the best way to do it. It is the simplest way to do it. You wire this in less than 10 minutes. You don't need a mechanic nor a handyman. You can do this absolutely yourself. Put it in your car. 3 wires, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground, or basically part of your chassis, and you're done. Bolt it into the side of your engine compartment, and you're good. It will protect and ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before the sun is able to essentially fry your device, or a adversarial attack from Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, or a 3-letter agency with the paint job of, Iran. Who knows what will happen, but again, this protects you against not only EMP, but also a Carrington-level event from the sun, both of which are possibilities and especially talked about right now. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. As far as the company goes, this same company has huge contracts with the likes of agencies like DHS, DOD, and now the DEMSA team helping protect the Texas grid. They started out a very, very small company. They are much bigger now, but they still make them handmade, every part down to the screws, made in the USA. So make sure to go check them out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF for $50 off and to help our independent channel. Thank you guys for waiting through this, but I highly recommend you don't skip something like this. It could very well could save your life. And then Dex, the Tesla economics tweet here. Do you want to talk about the HR?
Yeah, it's an interesting way that they've sort of framed up the Continuing Appropriations Act. They talk about what is in here, not specifically, which we'll go into a detail on some of the others, but at a high level, they're like funding for alleged censorship operations. So there's a whole lot that's in there, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. There's excessive spending. So this is supposed to just be a bill to continue the government's operations. In other words, like, hey, we need to make sure there's money to keep the lights on. Can we do that? Right? That's the purpose of the bill. But instead, they're putting excessive spending, supporting unnecessary expenditures, obviously to gain political support. So everybody's saying, I'm not going to let the government go on unless you put my big fat pork project in there. There's no transparency in the sense that they've used a very complex and lengthy bill. It's over 1,547 pages. includes policy changes. So there's policy changes that are within the funding, which doesn't make any sense because you're talking about funding. All of a sudden, you're passing controversial major policy changes. We'll talk about those in a moment. So another way to hide it under the radar when you guys aren't, we're all looking up to the sky, and they're sneaking this stuff through. And then the bill obviously supports funding for many programs that are redundant, which obviously is something that DOGE is going to try to solve when it gets started next year. But yeah, that's the summary that Teslanomics put together, but it is a very good high-level summary. Let's get into the rest of the details.
So, and another thing is things like this, people will go out and protest and break windows over a single thing, something that has probably happened 1,000 times that year, but the media happens to cover it. But then when this comes out, when things like this happen, people do not even bat an eyelash. People do not get excited. People don't care. People want to avoid this. People really don't want to hear about the politics, right? Well, those politics are going to affect each and every one of you. These are going to affect your families. These are going to affect prices. These are going to affect everything from how much you make to how much you can say, to how high you can fly. I mean, literally, that's what's going into, in the next 6 months. We're going to see all sorts of things change, especially since no one is even raising their voice. As far as they also have fit in and squeezed in here, what they get, $60 billion to Ukraine. This is on top of all of the other billions and billions and billions. Keep in mind, just last week, we found out that Ukraine, they are struggling. We're trying to help them, keep their freedom. They, for some reason, have so much excess drones that they were able to send a bunch of drones to HTS so HTS could take out Syria. Like, they have an excess to where they're sending stuff to other countries. Like, what in the hell? I mean, people are already pissed off about where this money is going, and a lot of people, even if they support Ukraine, they don't exactly want this much going out the door because they know that eventually this comes to bite all of us back in the ass. Unconstitutional force of courts to protect Congress. Again, there's a lot of things happening the last couple of years to basically protect politicians, and man, that's very scary considering how little these people actually represent us. Past and future blanket immunity for, of course, the bad guys. Again, point that out. Past and future blanket immunity for the bad guys. Unconstitutional emergency powers and covering and the V-man dates. And we're not talking about two bros going out. We're talking about forceful, pushing in things that maybe not everybody wants to do. And then gain of, and this is a touchy one, function research. We already know from many things that have come out that this is not only most likely, most people believe it is absolutely happening, and there's video evidence of that in the past couple years. Right after things like that come out, certain people just get axed from their own companies, that kind of thing. They threw some of that in there. And then passports. And then funding of 12, not 1, not 2, not 5, not 7, 12 laboratories. And these are related to bio. And what we get, hurricane aid, right? Dex, it's so crazy. They give themselves a 40% pay bump, and basically we're looking at this thing and we're going, okay, what's the overall benefit to everybody else, to us, to everybody here in the United States?
Oh, we should just be happy because our government keeps running and we keep getting our Social Security checks and we keep getting our, anything that the government takes care of for us, right? That's what we're supposed to do. Just go along. Don't worry about it. The government will take care of you. Nonsense.
Yeah, this is getting absurd. And it says, wow, T-Man just threatened to primary anybody passing this BS Mike Hunchin crap. Let's go. It says if Republicans try to pass a clean, continuing resolution without all of the bells and whistles. That will be so destructive to our country. All it will do after Jan 20 is bring a mess of the debt limit into the T-Man administration rather than allowing it to take place in the JB administration. Any Republican that would be so stupid as to do this should and will be primaried. Everything should be done and fully negotiated prior to my taking office on January 20th, 2025. So crazy. We're talking about 2025 right now. We're in the year 2025. So insane. I know we're not there yet, but we're right there. So obviously, a lot of people have been talking about, again, Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson has been in this whole thing, and let me pull up. I think did I have that first tweet here? I'm sorry, but I have said, and you guys know, I said this before when he was taking pictures with RFK and all of these people, and it's the four people sitting around the table in the private plane, and Mike Johnson's like throwing himself in there. There's a funny thing here. I wonder if I still have it. It's that people are starting to put together all of these selfies that he has put out, and he's just constantly taking selfies of him with all of the guys. So I will find that and I will put that up. I gotta find that post. He's just, to me, Mike Johnson is the picture perfect just image of a politician. And there's guys like this that last time that T-Man was in office, he was like, hey, they gave me a firm handshake. They looked me right in the eye and they said, I'm behind you. And then 2 months later, they were the ones writing secret articles for the New York Times or the Post saying, oh, this guy's horrible. Everybody's running around with their heads, all of this kind of stuff. So I just see a lot of just two-faced people, obviously everywhere in all of the gov. And then, Dex, do you want to talk about the state censorship office revived in this new spending bill?
So the Global Engagement Center is the name of it. You may have heard that, you may not have, but it's the one that has been labeled as the key player in the federal censorship state, as Vivek calls it. And other reps like Jim Banks and Chip Roy are slamming the bill over this. But this thing should have been basically shut down. It's, and the investigations are even calling it a speech suppression scheme. But Mike Johnson is defending the move, putting it in there, giving it an extra year's extension for it to run. Now he says, oh, don't worry about it. When the Don comes in, he'll take care of it. So we'll just put it in now. It's just asinine. I understand it because this is what politicians do. But this is just ridiculous coming out of what this movement that just happened and what everybody thinks we're going. But again, if you think that everybody was high on hopium, this is the slap in the face that is reality, that it's not as rosy and green as everyone thinks it is on the other side there with the Don, because they're going to fight this.
And it also expands the entire thing we went through in 2019. It expands on the powers that they would have in the next event, right? The next thing that ends up happening. This allows for and covering dates, passports, intentional emergency powers, and function research, of course, gaining. It also created BARDA, the agencies responsible for M, the R, the N, and A/GOF, or gain of research. So there's a lot of stuff in here that will actually help push along things that not everybody, in fact, all people had a problem with. These are things that pretty much everybody was talking about a couple years ago when somebody got a video of them saying, oh, yeah, we totally do that. We basically test it, and then we test it, and then we try it, and then we try new stuff. Then we make new things to try to see if we can fight it then. And who knows, with... and by the way, the stories that have come out lately, like these testing facilities that do testing on monkeys, and they accidentally release 40 monkeys, and you find out, oh, this isn't the first time they've released massive amounts of monkeys into the streets. It's just like, it's insane that we're in this world that we call civilized, yet we have so many human errors left and right. We have all of this just petty BS going on between people, and it's all pushed from the top down. And the I guess the IQ level of most, and I think pretty much everybody here is street smart, people don't see that it's even happening. It's like we're hypnotized. And I'm honestly in kind of disbelief how they do this almost every single time, and somehow people think we're evolving. I don't get it. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know a lot of people sort of say, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to, I don't like it. This is horrible. I don't like the future, but I can't do anything. But I would say, it doesn't hurt to write your representative, and you can go to house.gov and find it. It's real simple. Put in your zip and you can write them. While I don't know that they always listen to a few, but when there's many, as the Don said, they're going to get primaried. If they're seeing massive amounts of people writing them saying you're out, or I'm not going to take this if you do that, then they realize that they may have an issue when their time to get selected again comes up. So that's the only real power we have. I wouldn't call it a lot of power, but it is something, and it doesn't hurt, and it's free, so you can do it online.
And by the way, this is the same gentleman. If you watched, he was taking photos with all of them, and they were talking about all of Doge and fixing the food and that week of High on Hope. Everybody was cheering, and when I made it one comment, I said, I just don't trust this guy. I said I very rarely, do things based on just the look. But I've heard this guy speak. I just feel like he is fake. And if you remember the way that he got put in, the whole thing with how the person who took it before only lasted a few days or something. Who was the person that worked right before him? And then before them and before them. It's like it just seemed shady. It just seemed like he was the insert, right? And he can smile and look honest. And that's the thing. He's got that look like, oh, yeah, well, I'm just a good smanky guy. Everybody now is waking up to this, and it's like these are all used car salesmen, but the worst kind, the kind that do Foursquare and try to rip you off for $10,000 on a $6,000 car. This is this kind of people, and I'm sorry, I don't normally do that. But I knew from the beginning, and now everybody is seeing it. It's like he has to do something like this. They always do. You wait over 4 years, you'll see almost all of them do this. How many people did you? And here's a quick question before we go on to our next show. How many of these politicians, and I mean a lot, some of them you don't even talk about anymore, the Romneys, the this, the that, how many of these politicians did at one point you actually thought, oh, that guy's not bad, or the Huckabees, or this or that, all of these different people, a lot of them retired or we don't even talk about anymore. How many of those people did at once you supported, and then you saw something and you go, oh, I could never support that person again? They will take a paycheck, and what's funny is they never declare these paychecks. It's in secret. All of a sudden they just flip-flop on a dime, and they're on the opposite side of things. And there's no explanation, and there's no real enforcement of like why they just changed, because they can change their opinion. But the reason why it's happening, everybody knows, is because money is exchanged. They're getting a deal, or they're getting a job afterwards, or they're going to a freaking military industrial complex job, or they're going to this job or that job, or they're getting a huge chunk of money, or they're getting property in the Cayman Islands or something. Who knows what happens? But again, how many of these people have you actually supported at one time? You saw a clip of them, you thought they were really good, they're well-spoken, and then you just said, what the hell? Why would he do that? I could never like that guy again, or I'd never like that woman again. To me, it's happened so many times, I don't see how people get burned that many times over and over and not get it. Dex, go ahead.
Meat Puppet 007 says, in my opinion, 47 could be a Trojan horse. Shout out to the mods, Marf Dex. Always be prepared. Thank you, Meat Puppet 007.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't know what's truly going to happen. There's a bigger plan at play here, and we don't know who the real players are, and everybody could be tricked. It's harder to it's easy to fool somebody. It's harder to convince them they have been fooled. So make sure to join us over on our next show. We're going to talk about the rest of what's happening. We're going to talk about everything that is going on back page, on front page, everything over on our main show. If you're in the chat, just stay here. You'll be ported over. If you're watching the replay, all you have to do is click here. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.
This should've make you. This should've make you mad. This should infuriate you. This should've make you.